Yeah, that should be better. That should be better. So hello, good morning, everybody. Let's see. So today I'm going to continue my studies of amazing language Rust. Let me see, how do we do that? So what we can do is we are going to the open source project, this one. Well, it's not the project, that's the project, but not the GitHub part of it. GitHub part of it is this one. And yeah, so there's a project called BLSTSecurity. There's also a review on it from Kunal, our friend, which I'm going to watch today, I think. Let's actually make sure that it happens. Watch later. Okay. Can I make it watch next? Now, so my real goal here is not to review the project as such, although the project is amazing, but first I want to get the taste of like how this stuff is done and cooked. Okay. And to do that, I need to well, first of all, I need to make the picture look right, because apparently it doesn't. Yeah, I'm doing this OBS Studio and stuff, so yeah, so it's a bit weird. Anyway, so I wanted to go through this README because this Cherrybomb thing, it's an API security. It literally tells you if there are problems with your APIs. And I think it's in Rust. Now, let's see. So if I go to the Cherrybomb, they must have README, which is this one. So they're saying that on Linux and Mac, we can do this stuff. Oh, so we get this install thing and then we feed it to bash. And now here comes the first problem, the first challenge, okay? Well, besides moving this thing, the first challenge is that I'm on Windows. Sorry about that, not rich yet enough. Not that rich. I cannot afford myself, Mac. But what I can do is to start Ubuntu on Windows. I'm thinking of actually installing. I'm thinking of actually installing. That's I think it's called VSL2, right? Windows WS. I think it's this one. Yeah. So Windows subsystem for Linux. So when Microsoft became 100% good people, and they started integrating Linux into their stuff. So now, let's see. So I want this stuff, Windows V. Seriously, okay, this way it works, but we need a pipe here, so it's downloading Cherrybomb. Curl will just get whatever you feed to it. Okay, so it says it's done installing Cherrybomb. All right, okie dokie, okay. Now if we go back here, if we close this window, we can continue, so we can move a bookmark here. Now, so it moved it to user local bin. That's interesting. So because Yeah, so it mentions sudo, but I guess I'm root anyway, so I don't need a sudo. I can do whatever I want. This thing exists on the inside of my Windows machine. Oh, I should stop doing this gesture with left hand. I should become right-handed, so because the camera is on the left. Yeah. Oh. But to be honest, so you're saying that's CLI? So we can do like this, like curl on Linux. Then we can do the create thing. Okay. I know this creates, but cargo, some kind to install stuff. We can do Docker. Maybe next time it will be Docker. And we can clone the repo as well. But I don't, well, I wouldn't risk it yet. Oh, it's installed. Interesting. Where did we get it installed? Oh, here. Okay. Okay, so it's not even in directory, it's a file. Okay, binary. Oh, that was a stupid mistake. Yeah, we'll manage. I'll probably just end the process. Ooh, looks like matrix, right? Sometimes you mess up like this. I wanted to see what this file does, but it looks like a binary. So I have another Cherrybomb. Yeah, so it still works. Although it's 071. So when you curl, it's 071. Now, let's see. Oh, so now we're talking about Open API. All right. So yes, so Open API, I think there was a link about Open API, right? I think in contributing MD here. So, and we'll just make this stream for, let me say, I would say half an hour more at most. And then, well, I'll need to switch this off. And then I will, actually it's not that bad. And then I'll call it a morning, because currently I'm just setting it up, right? So, but basically my message was that here in contributing MD, they refer to Open API specification. Yeah, so from Swagger, obviously. It's a very long document, but what they mean here, right, here. So what they're doing, so now we can run this thing about an app which creates OpenAPI thing is here is that I don't really want to create this up. I don't know how. I don't want to spend half an hour of my life right now to create such an app, because the original name of the stream was I think it was to learn Rust. So let's learn Rust. Let's start IntelliJ, because IntelliJ supports Rust, and well, I've just won yet another license. So one of the best things about IntelliJ is that if you are an active part of community, if you go to meetups and such, then you can win a license, because they are very kind. They meaning IntelliJ, they keep sharing licenses with the community, like via raffles and stuff. Okay. Oh, I didn't know Shift Escape. So Escape moves focus to the editor, but Shift Escape moves focus to the editor and hides stuff. Oh, so if I do this one, let's say if I go structure and then I go this thing and I press F12, then I'm back in structure, right? But if I do escape, I'm back to this one. If I do F12, I'm back to structure. But if I do Shift Escape, I go to yeah. But if I do Shift F12, no, F12, Shift Escape. Nice. I didn't know this one. That's nice. So now Alt 1. We've updated, I think. So now it becomes more interesting. So that's our file, right? Yeah. The problem here is that, so cargo, it's a build system for Rust, I guess. Rust cargo. Cargo is Rust's build system and package manager. You see? So just from reading this README file, not even the source code README file, I found that cargo is used in Rust, similar to Gradle and Maven are used in Java to build stuff. Okay, so we can do cargo version, but I don't think our the stuff exit I said yeah, that's what I thought. So in our case, cargo is not yet installed. But here, let me see. So we have this cargo, right? Cherrybomb is a target. Then do we have Cherrybomb SLI? And this stuff, I'm not sure, but I think this target either didn't exist or it changed its color. The thing is that I can actually go to my own stream, right? I can go to my own stream to live streaming, and I can check. Don't think for that I will. Yeah, don't think for that I'll need to. Yeah, whatever, doesn't really matter. But I think this target didn't exist or it was gray. So now my question will be, what do these tasks do? So how do we do it? So cargo lock is probably just locking, right? Yeah, generates automatically. But this thing is not generated automatically, right? So it describes the version of the project, which is cool. And now I have a question, because this is on the main branch. Or is it what we want? Because Our friends from BLSTSecurity, they just released version 1. Congrats, yay! It's actually quite cool because, like, I think just last week they released version 1 and we're working on version 7 and I'm not happy with that. Let's see how their pull requests work. Oh, the tests are broken. That's interesting. Yeah, so dev branch. Okay, so if we go to Cherrybomb and if we go to now, I think there should be more branches. Fetch dev. No, why? Oh, because yeah, because I'm not cloning this project, all right? I'm actually I'm working with the fork of this stuff, which is my code, which is not synced. Okay, and now I have a question. Why did my code only got main branch? Because I never thought of this. Okay, so if I fork this one, will it be okay? Sorry, there's an emergency. I have bad health at the moment. I'll have to terminate the stream. It's not a big emergency, no need to call the doctor. But yeah, I'll continue these studies later. I think I can put it on pause probably somehow, like this, and then we'll come back. So I don't think, like, well, as expected, nobody came. So now what I actually wanted to do was to actually watch the Kunal's was it this one? So Kunal's video on that stuff. So let me put the link in the comments. Okay, and let's watch it together. So what I'll do now, I will actually allow the audio. I will allow the audio from Chrome, from this thing. Let's see if it works, and I will switch on my own headphones, so it's not too loud for you, friends. Okay, it's on. Good stuff. Now let's see if the sound works.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing great, and in this video we are going to talk about all things related to APIs. So we're going to talk about API security, where we are headed, and how APIs have evolved. And I'm going to introduce you to another new tool. So we talk a lot about tools on this channel. We have done some amazing sessions on Kubernetes, like Kubernetes security and testing and monitoring and cost monitoring and all these other things. So today we're going to talk about how you can find vulnerabilities in your APIs, and what are the limitations that folks are facing right now, and how this tool called Cherrybomb by BLSTSecurity can help you in moving ahead with that. And obviously, since we are introducing a new tool, we'll be doing a demo. I'll show you by the CLI, the dashboard, and you can find all these links in the description below, the ones that I'm going to cover in this video. So let's get started. Okay, so before moving forward.
And friends, Kunal, he's absolutely amazing person. So he has his own channel. Let me put a link here. YouTube, Kunal Kushwaha. So I'll just add the link to his channel to my to the chat, right? Yeah. And now let's watch it together.
About all things related to APIs. So we're going to talk about API security, where we are headed, and how APIs have evolved. And I'm going to introduce you to another new tool. So we talk a lot about tools on this channel. We have done some amazing sessions on Kubernetes, like Kubernetes security and testing and monitoring and cost monitoring and all these other things. So today we're going to talk about how you can find vulnerabilities in your APIs, and what are the limitations that folks are facing right now, and how this tool called Cherrybomb by BLSTSecurity can help you in moving ahead with that. And obviously, since we are introducing a new tool, we'll be doing a demo. I'll show you where the CLI, the dashboard, and you can find all these links in the description below, the ones that I'm going to cover in this video. So let's get started. Okay, so before moving forward to the API security part, let's first discuss a little bit more about what are the differences between APIs like a few years ago, how things have changed, and why we need to think about API security, in the first place. Like, why is it even necessary, and how is it any different than when we talk about 3, 4, 5 years ago or something like that, right? So previously, we used to have very few APIs when we were talking about it. So when we talk about data, and when we talk about APIs, we often talk about how data is being transferred through the APIs. So the when we talk about in the previous days, the data that was being transferred in the APIs, it was like much less sensitive, and you would rarely change your APIs for your use cases. But if we talk about like 5 years ago or something like that, and if you talk about, since we're talking about security, we have to talk about attacks and all the malicious activities and stuff. So around 4 or 5 years ago, the attacks, like API attacks, there were pretty common attacks like like your SQL injection, XSS, and so many other things, right? But nowadays, most of the attacks that are happening in the API sector are business logic based attacks, right? So it's also dependent on how your API is defined, and that is what we'll look into this particular session, how Cherrybomb can help us find these broken, like, configurations and half-done specific APIs that attackers can find a loophole into your business logic, for example, right? So there's a little bit of a comparison about the standard, what was happening, and now on the business logic side of thing. And when we talk about your API gateway and other things that that are designed to prevent such things, such as WAF. So if you don't know what WAF is, it's a web application firewall, right? Is basically monitors your data packets as they travel from the website and your application, and you can either host it in like your network or on the cloud, and you can set up a reverse proxy with it, and it takes it does some sort of like checks for you when we talk about cybersecurity, right? um, so like I talked about XSS and SQL injection stuff, it can definitely protect you against that. But having said that, there are like a few limitations, um, like as well, and it's the major drawback if you talk about WAF, right? It's I think cost is there and the performance is there as well. Plus, it's not always going to be, when we talk about protection, it's not going to be 100% when we talk about APIs, right? So there have been scenarios in which attackers have bypassed WAF, for example, and you may often encounter false positives as well, right? Apart from that, like I mentioned, it's it's not efficient, so it requires a lot of resources to run that, and that obviously would increase your bill wherever you're running it. So a little bit of a cost standpoint over there as well when we have to think about it. Right, so these things we talked about, like API gateway and WAF, they're not really designed to protect against the dynamic nature of the APIs and how they are evolving, right? And obviously the business logic part that we discussed previously. So what's the solution? Now let's talk about this, presenting Cherrybomb by BLSTSecurity. We'll be doing a hands-on demo of this as well. And by the way, it's open source, so you can check it out. Let me just show you. So you can go over here, you can go to GitHub,
So Kunal is right, it's open source and the link is in our comments. So yeah, so you can just go to the comments and you can open this link, which will lead you here. All right.
Forward to the API security part, let's first discuss a little bit more about what are the differences between APIs like a few years ago, how things have changed, and why we need to think about API security, in the first place. Like, Kunal, why is it even necessary, and how is it any different than when we talk about 3, 4, 5 years ago or something like that, right? So previously, we used to have very few APIs when we were talking about it. So when we talk about data, and when we talk about APIs, we often talk about how data is being transferred through the APIs. So the when we talk about, in the previous days, the data that was being transferred in the APIs, it was like much less sensitive, and you would rarely change your APIs for your use cases. But if we talk about like 5 years ago or something like that, and if you talk about, since we're talking about security, we have to talk about attacks and all the malicious activities and stuff. So around 4 or 5 years ago, the attacks, like API attacks, there were pretty common attacks like like your SQL injection, XSS, and so many other things, right? But nowadays, most of the attacks that are happening in the API sector are business logic based attacks, right? So it's also dependent on how your API is defined, and that is what we'll look into this particular session, how Cherrybomb can help us find these broken, like, configurations and half-done specific APIs that attackers can find a loophole into your business logic, for example, right? So just a little bit of a comparison about the standard, what was happening, and now on the business logic side of thing. And when we talk about your API gateway and other things that are designed to prevent such things, such as WAF. So if you don't know what WAF is, it's a web application firewall, right? Is basically monitors your data packets as they travel from the website and your application, and you can either host it in like your network or on the cloud, and you can set up a reverse proxy with it, and it takes, it does some sort of like checks for you when we talk about cybersecurity, right? um, so like I talked about XSS and SQL injection stuff, it can definitely protect you against that. But having said that, there are like a few limitations, like as well, and it's the major drawback if you talk about WAF, right? It's I think cost is there and the performance is there as well. Plus, it's not always going to be, when we talk about protection, it's not going to be 100% when we talk about APIs, right? So there have been scenarios in which attackers have bypassed WAF, for example, and you may often encounter false positives as well, right? Apart from that, like I mentioned, it's it's not efficient, so it requires a lot of resources to run that, and that obviously would increase your bill wherever you're running it. So a little bit of a cost standpoint over there as well when we have to think about it. Right, so these things we talked about, like API gateway and WAF, they're not really designed to protect against the dynamic nature of the APIs and how they are evolving, right? And obviously the business logic part that we discussed previously. So what's the solution? Now let's talk about this. Presenting Cherrybomb by BLSTSecurity. We'll be doing a hands-on demo of this as well. And by the way, it's open source, so you can check it out. Let me just show you. So you can go over here, you can go to GitHub. I will do this later. There you go. There we have it. It's an open source. You can stop half-done API specifications. We'll be going through this, and we'll be seeing like how you can work with it. But yeah, it's basically about it. And this product, it's an API security system that basically finds vulnerabilities that WAF and your API management basically miss. And we'll talk about the features, we'll talk about what it has to offer, and some hands-on demos as well. But let's take a look into what the features are. So BLST basically stands for Business Logic Security Testing, and they find the business logic, broken business logic attacks in your API, and then they map it, and you can see it in a nice little user-friendly dashboard as well. And when we talk about some of the the main focus, what they're trying to to focus on, first of all, the thing that definitely I loved is that it's open source, so it's completely community driven. You can check out, you can give them a star and check out contributions. So if you have some suggestions, any new features or any improvements you would like to recommend, you can go to the GitHub. All the links you can find in the description below. And when we talk about these so when we talk about, let's say, files, and when we talk about misconfigurations in files, you may have heard about, you may have worked with, when we talk about open API like Swagger files and things like that, right? And when we talk about these files, they are really hard to read, and this particular tool makes it pretty easy for us to read these files as well, as I'll show you in this demo, obviously. And one of the additional features that I really like, and this is something that is going to be very nice for people who develop APIs and like developers and people who work a lot with documentation, is that it also helps you in creating your product documentation, right? So developers often don't like documenting their APIs, so API docs are hard. And with this tool called Cherrybomb, you can document the Swagger files, which will make it easier for the developer to document the API, for example, right? So this will do it for you, like the product will document the APIs, and the developers can work with that and make sure their documentation is like up to date and stuff. Something for like speaking of developers, it's also like user friendly when we talk about the interface, which we'll talk more about when we do the hands-on part, definitely. So as you can see, reading the file as it is can be pretty hard and time consuming, but if we talk about the like the developers and in this field, definitely it makes it easy for them to read their files as well. So before moving forward, let me just show you a little bit more about Cherrybomb, right? So when we talk about Cherrybomb, you can stop half done API specifications, and it's a CLI tool that helps you avoid undefined user behavior by validating an API specification. So the business logic part that we mentioned previously, that is basically it helps us with that most definitely. And you can see that it supports Open API and HTTP logs. So we'll be using some of these sample files, for example, and we'll be running into that. So you can see it works with cloud providers and Kubernetes and REST APIs and all these other things. And here you can see that you can do Open API specific scans. It creates like a parameter table is available over here. There's a mapper, so you can take in traffic logs and can map the business logic flow of the application. There's obviously a visualizer over here as well, so you can give it the file and it can visualize stuff for you, which we'll see shortly. So yeah, do check out the GitHub repository, and without further ado, let's get started with the demo. And now before we move into the demo, you may be also wondering, Kunal, what are some of the business, like when we talk about business logics and attacks and things like that in that domain, how does it mean, like what does it work? So you may have seen like some examples to it. One example can be like you are shopping something and you add something like, let's say you add 10 items in your shopping cart, and the attacker the attacker adds 10 items in the shopping cart, and then they apply like a discount for it, okay, and then they remove 9 items. They get that one item on like totally free or something like that. Now that sort of like may not seem obvious, but sometimes folks miss out on such things. And it's also mentioned like on the website how they're different, as you can see. So you can, it's BLST's application-centric algorithms to identify patterns and logic attacks in real time, and so many other things that you can see over here. So you can go to the website and you can check out about, like, you can join the Discord channel as well, and you can learn more about the platform and things like that and how they work. Basically everything is available online. Cool. All right, so let's move forward with the demo. So let's first check the CLI. So you can just download it using this, or you can just do a direct download from the website as well. And if I just check version, so here I have some Swagger files. If I say cat swagger.json, so this is very hard to read. Okay, this is really hard to read. And if we talk about like You can check the version. I have this version installed over here. You can check out the latest version. For example, we're just going to run a simple command. We're going to run an open API specific scan. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this and paste. I'm going to change the file name to the one that I have. There we go. So as you can see, I'm just going to close this particular window so you can see it completely clearly. So as you can see, this is a server URL, and this is a check. This is the result, severity, alerts, and description. Okay, about the checks that it's making. So it's making a server URL, it passed. Check for the server URL misconfiguration, some additional property that failed. Okay, it has 145 alerts and it shows that the severity is low. This is a medium severity for auth. So is there a global like authentication definition? And this checks for basically bad defaults in the object additional properties, right? And body schema is available here. 401, 403, attributes, endpoints, permissions, responses, so many things. Valid response codes, check for the correct permission configuration for get, push, and post requests. So as you can see, it's basically giving you some descriptions about that. But what we're going to do is, and by the way, you can also generate the parameters table, for example. Just gonna param table. There we go. Here we have it, right? So it has some information about, so you can see the type, status codes, the delivery method, the endpoints, parents, children, and min-max. We'll learn more about these, in the detail when we move forward. But as you can see, these are like some parts that is checking it against, but see it more clearly when we work with the dashboard basically. So let's do that. Okay, so basically you can sign up using the link in the description below, and I can go to my dashboard, right? And here you can find the docs as well. So you can go to the docs, as here you can see. And when we talk about like business logic, for example, so you can talk about it like the mapper, which we'll work on in a while right now. And you can check more about the open API specification, endpoint table, right, and the parameters table that we just discussed about as well in the CLI demo, for example, right? So it basically returns a full description for every parameter in your application, right? And it says that you can use this table to view a list of parameters, the endpoints as we just saw, and more information that are basically in the application's instance, right? And you can use this to identify which parameters need to be ordered for future upgrades and all these other things. So the name basically means the parameter's name, and as we can see, the status and the type and the delivery methods. This is a pretty standard stuff. And the parents and children column describes the object hierarchy in JSON. So we worked with the JSON file. That's basically what it describes. So if I go to it again and I run this file, it's going to generate the same thing, and all the information about these tables and columns can be available over here, is in the documentation, as here you can see, right? Endpoints, children's, and all these other things. Cool. When we talk about the checks, as you can see, so we have the string attribute and response body. So when we were running the checks, let's say this one. So you can see server URL, string attributes. Kunal, what is a string attributes? Just go to the documentation. So this is basically a data type that is used to store text-based data, and this check defines what a string type attribute is and how it is used. Cool. One more thing I wanted to mention, and this is like you can check about like for parameters and status codes and valid response bodies, so many other things. And getting started things we already covered, but you can also check out the GitHub repository here. One second. Over here you can check out the additional things like the configuration options, right? So for full scan and more features, and also you can check out their roadmap. So as you can see, YAML is supported as well now. And when we go to the dashboard, let me just show you some examples. Let me upload a new, I have uploaded a Swagger file over here, for example, that you can see. You can upload another one. just upload another file and it will be, working similarly. You can just give it a name, and here you can see when I talk about this particular file that I've just uploaded, it's basically the same thing as that I'm getting over here. So I can talk about the endpoints. For example, it has like these three that I'm getting over here, and these are the status codes and the response parameters, and everything is available over here. We talk about parameters. As you can see, everything is available like over here, and we had the parameter, same thing, something like this. So if you want it to be in a nice little format, you can use the dashboard, which is pretty cool. So when we talk about OAS, you can check the summary, right? So for authentication, it's saying that it basically failed, and I think I can also filter it out some according to the ones that have failed, and let's say all the medium priority ones or the low priority ones, right? Array attributes, string attributes. So this is something like, the path code is also something that is providing, and it's basically giving us all the information related to this. Okay, so it's saying that this is string schema without a minimum length, without a maximum length. This is a string schema without a pattern, and all these other things. Cool. Here you can see. All right. And another thing, you can see unused schema. It says no problems found. Great job. Authentication, there's one problem found. See what this has. So it says that there's no security scheme for it. Okay, so this API does not have an authentication defined. So obviously not a very good practice. Okay, and anything else that we can find? Object attributes, array attributes, things like that. Same thing, item without a without an item maximum or minimum. Folks, maybe when we talk about arrays, we have the data structure of collection of objects basically. So you can see no particular maximum limit has been defined for this one, for example. Yeah, it's basically about it, as you can find in the OAS. And we talk about attack, so you can see that it's a coming new feature, but you'll be able to it'll be able to simulate business logic attack flows on the API, and that is, I think, pretty cool, using AI and machine learning. I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. Awesome. We talk about anomalies, that's as well, runtime validation, and you can go to the settings part available over here as well. Cool. I would have to upgrade. Trial is about to end, but yeah, that's basically about it. It can give you information about the maps and the megabytes used and all these other things. Cool. Well, that's pretty much about this video. We talked about business logic attacks and how they're helping us prevent that, and we talked about all the features that it has to offer. We talked about we looked at a demo of the CLI, of the dashboard, and what it has to offer, how it can prevent business logic attacks, and yeah, basically make your APIs awesome. And that's pretty much about it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, but highly recommend joining the Discord channel of BLST as well, where you can ask your questions and get feedback and receive and give feedback as well and receive feedback as well. And do share about it on like Twitter and socials as well if you find it interesting. Let me know what you thought about this video and what other things I can cover in the future videos, what all content you would like to see. And yeah, you can take a screenshot and share about it and share what you learned and what are some of the best practices that you are looking to follow. And that's pretty much about it. Yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.
So hello friends, let me just do one thing. Let me add a link to this amazing talk from Kunal. Oh, sorry about that. To our live streaming thing. Yeah. So I actually enjoyed this one, although I got distracted with other things. But thank you, Kunal, very much. And that's it. So I'm closing the stream, and it got recorded. So I think I will start reviewing things like this one and conferences openly, maybe during my lunchtime or something. And then we'll see how it goes. Okay. So and that's it. Sorry, I just was reading to somebody toxic from yesterday. I was really trying to help the person, spent over an hour of my life, and the person has stopped it at every of my suggestions. Like, apparently everything I'm doing is wrong, and the only thing person can see is money. And I really cannot help somebody who only dreams of money, 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 because, well, that's not the way, that's not how you earn. But anyway, thank you for